Hi, this is Michelle Buccilli with Highlands Resort Realty, the only on-site real estate company located in Seven Springs in Centr Lobby. So you signed that contract, you had your home inspections, you're well on your way towards closing. So now what? You'll want to be thinking about your property insurance. So today, John Tierney will be speaking with Amy Burns with State Farm. So why don't we head in and go see what she has to say.
Thank you, Michelle. You're right, we're with Amy Burns today, and it's kind of deja vu all over again because we were with Amy just this past weekend when we had an open house up at Seven Springs. She came up to the golf course and we had some other people there, and we were sitting around talking and we thought, wouldn't it be a great idea if we included this with one of our podcasts? What I mean by this is insurance. What do people have to look at when they have a second home? But before we get into any of that, Amy, if you could just take a couple minutes and share your background and how you've been involved with insurance.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks, John. It's really a pleasure talking with you. So I have been in the insurance industry, and I hate to say it, for over 30 years.
Oh, wow. Never
So
guessed it.
I started in my uncle's State Farm office as a licensed staff member while I was in college. When I graduated, I went into fire claims with State Farm. And I have a pretty extensive background in the claims portion of insurance,
That's different.
which comes in
That's
really
important.
handy in my agency role. So I did fire claims in Pittsburgh for 19 years in the field, and then 5 years as a trainer in upstate New York. Moved back, wanted to come home, moved back to Pittsburgh, and opened my agency about 5 years ago.
Great, that's a good story, and that's good for people to know because working with you, you know the backside of the insurance business as well as the front end.
Yep.
So, with that being said, what type of insurance, and is it different from a second home to a primary home?
So no, a homeowner's policy really is the best policy for a second home. If the customer is the only occupant of the home, and we can talk about the differences there in a little bit. But yeah, your standard homeowner's policy is really going to give you the best coverage for a second home or a seasonal home. Some companies may have a small charge for that second home, but it's really not much.
Okay, well, we see a lot of VRBO now and Airbnb and probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 50% of the people up at the resort or around the resort rent these properties out. Now, is that a different animal?
Yes, so it's something that you need to consider. So when I'm talking to a client about the best policy, one of the questions I am asking is how will the dwelling be used?
Okay.
So if the dwelling is going to be rented out part of the time, so you're staying there part of the year and you're renting it out part of the year, a homeowner's policy is still fine, but you're going to want to add an endorsement. We have a home rental endorsement that's going to cover that rental.
Okay.
The time whenever it's being rented.
Good.
Now, you do have situations where people are buying properties as just purely investment, and it's exclusively going to be used for short-term rentals. Now, that's something that is not going to be in the homeowner realm. You're really looking at a business policy there.
Okay.
And if
We
that's
see that from time to time
Yeah.
in LLCs, they may form, and that'd be a whole different process.
It is, absolutely. So important to have that discussion with your insurance agent about how the property will be used.
Okay, now, is there a difference whether it's a condo or a townhouse? And if there is, can you elaborate a little on that?
Sure. So condominiums specifically differ from a homeowner's in that a condominium will have a separate policy, an association policy. And that condo association policy is actually going to cover a good part of the structure. And then a unit owner, as the unit owner, you're going to have your own policy that's going to cover part of the structure as well as your personal property. I always suggest if it is a condominium, a true condominium, check the bylaws.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, because you really, it differs from condo to condo association. You want to know what you're responsible for, and that's going to be detailed in the bylaws.
And that kind of falls into play because we always tell people to reach out to their HOA manager prior to purchasing a home because there may be some things the board talked about this would be another reason.
Yeah.
Talk about what, you may need to have covered from an insurance perspective.
Right.
Now, if it's a townhouse, it's a little bit different, right? I mean, the townhouse is almost like a single family.
Right.
Okay.
Unless there's a separate condo association policy covering that structure, even if it's a townhouse, it's going to still be a homeowner's policy.
Okay. And what are some of the concerns you see with second homes over the years, or issues that, from an insurance perspective, they've been there a year or two? Do you have any recommendations that maybe preventative type of options?
Yeah, for sure. So again, my claims background kind of is helpful here, so I can give some recommendations to customers. Honestly, the most common losses that we see in second and seasonal homes are frozen pipes and water damage.
Good point.
And there's some really simple things that a property owner can do to prevent that, or try to, the best they can to prevent it. Shut off the water when you leave. Their main shut off. That's pretty simple. If you're leaving for an extended period of time over winter months, maintain heat. I'm not saying 80 degrees, but maintain heat in the property. If possible, have someone check on the house every week or so. Water damage can be really extensive. So
okay, well, that's good to know.
Easy to prevent, though.
Good to know. So let's come full circle. We're back at closing. What type of documents does the homeowner need to have at closing with regard to insurance? We've had a session here about from a closing attorney, but from an insurance perspective.
Well, so you're going to need proof of homeowner's insurance when you close. Okay. Declaration page, a paid receipt if you are paying it yourself. If it's going through an escrow, if your premium's going to be paid in an escrow, then we can provide an invoice, and then that's paid at the closing. Your insurance agent should work with the lender. We want to be sure that they're listed exactly the way that they want to be on the policy, the loan number, things like that.
Okay.
And your agent can get those closing documents over to your lender well before your closing date.
Okay. Is there anything else that you think we should touch on? How can the people get in touch with you if they would like to ask you some additional questions down the road?
I'm on all of the social media. I'm on Facebook. Amy at sfagent. You can cut that. Amy at.
No, we don't cut. Keep going.
So you can check me out online at amy at sfagentamy.com.
Okay.
My office is in Monroeville, but I do away games. So one thing that I would like to touch on, and I think that often there's some confusion about, first of all, sit down with your agent, have a conversation about what's covered. You don't want that surprise after a claim. And I don't expect that people are reading their policies cover to cover. That's my job, to know the policy. So I just want to touch on the the most important coverages that you have in your policy. Not going to cover all of them, we don't have time. But your dwelling is covered under one separate coverage line. And the amount of coverage that you need on your home, on the structure, is going to be determined by the estimated replacement cost. Not the same as the market value. There's a lot of confusion about that. Estimated replacement cost is what it's going to cost to rebuild that home. Okay. Market value is a completely different thing. So don't get those two confused, and they can differ.
Sure.
You have something that's not attached to your house, a shed, a detached garage, an in-ground pool. That's a separate coverage line.
Okay.
Other structures, dwelling extensions. Obviously personal property. Again, that's a separate coverage within your policy.
You have a different number in there for that, right? Depending on
right,
okay.
Right, and you can increase that. Some people have some antiques or valuable personal property. Talk to your agent about that. Make sure that those are covered properly.
Okay.
A really important coverage that's often overlooked is your liability coverage. Most people don't even know they have that. You do. If you cause damage or injury to another person, a third party, this liability coverage is going to protect you. It can even pay for a defense if you're sued. Again, most people don't even understand that they have it. What's it for? Believe me, if you are found legally liable for someone's damages and those limits are paid, you're going to want to have enough to protect you because you're responsible to pay that judgment.
Okay.
So
I'm really glad you hit on that. In fact, that's how we're going to wrap it up, because I'm going to sit down with Amy right now and go over that exact information. So again, Amy,
oh, thanks, John.
thank you
Always
very
a pleasure.
much. Michelle, back to you.
Thanks, Amy and John. So when you're going to get your homeowner's insurance, you're going to want to make sure you get the right coverage. This is Michelle Buccilli and John Tierney with Highlands Resort Realty, the only on-site real estate company located in Seven Springs in Centr Lobby. Until next time.